Okay guys, well after watching David Attenbough's Climate Change the Facts documentary, I felt motivated to make this film and show it for the pack of lies that it is. Please enjoy.
Whilst they can't all be attributed to climate change, last year's extreme weather events meant that millions of people needed humanitarian aid.
Extreme weather is climate change. That is what climate change is. Extreme weather leading from a changing climate. People will always have to relocate because of the weather. People always have done. And what we do to the planet makes no difference to the temperature of the planet or the weather systems. This is just part of the lie they use and how they segregate the information so they can use it against you.
Earth's ice, frozen for millennia, is melting.
Now, the media have always used melting ice caps as a way to excite people, and David, I'm surprised you stooped to such levels. Here we go, 80 years ago, news articles all over it. Melting ice caps, glaciers melting over Greenland. And here we have it again. Polar ice fall increasing. Debate over global warming heats up. They're saying the ice pack's down 40%. They're screaming it then. But wait a minute, just give it another 20 years. An ice age is coming. The ice isn't melting anymore. In fact, the ice is growing. The world is colder. Glaciers are growing, you know. Yes, the ice does melt. And yes, the ice will come back. It's not the end of the world. We're not doing it. But yet the media like to blame us. Each time it swings either way, it seems to be our fault. Now guys, think about it. The ice melts, then the ice grows. It's what the ice does. It's not us. And it's not news when it happens, because you can see here, it's happened before, it's going to happen again. We don't change or affect that.
In Antarctica, really small changes in ocean temperature in particular melt a lot of ice. The ocean is only about half a degree centigrade warmer than it should be.
This guy dribbling on about half a centigrade warmer than it should be. Who's he to decide what it should be? We're constantly finding volcanoes underneath this ice. We wouldn't even know we're there. How can we say what the temperature of the water should be? And I'm going to show you now why they always stop at 2016 with their nice little animations. If you look here, this is our current sea ice levels, sea ice thickness as of the 5th of May 2019 from the observatory that watches this constantly. Now we're just going to zoom in on the little chart here for the sea ice volumes going back from 2004 until now. And what you're going to see now is this first little arrow pointing at 2016 in September, where they always show and stop their animations. And yes, in 2016 the sea ice was at a low level. Look at that green line at the bottom of the chart. It is the lowest it can be since 2004. So that's why their animation always stops there. But if you look to the light blue line that I'm now going to highlight just above it in September again in 2018, the sea ice has recovered to the 2004 and 2013 average. So not only is it not melting, it has increased exponentially in 3 years. I'm not saying this. The observatory, the data is saying this. Ignore the news. Look for yourself, guys. Please. Let's continue.
Sea level has been stable for several thousand years. But if the ice sheets lose icebergs faster and faster to the ocean, and sea level goes up.
Sea level goes up. Right, okay. Let's have a look over 20 million years of the average sea level of our planet. Now, looks to me, most of the history, that wiggly line, is above our current sea level. So if anything, sea level's where it should be. If it goes up, that's not out of the ordinary or anything to do with us. Once again, not me saying this, just look at the data. Shall we?
The world's oceans are expanding because they're getting warmer. Over 90% of the increased heat trapped in our atmosphere has been stored in the oceans.
Right, coral reefs, they've been depleted, they've been restored. And if you follow the news and see the articles, in places where the coral reef was decimated, they have fully recovered. And in other places where the coral reefs were untouched, they're starting to decimate. These are natural cycles in the natural world that happen naturally. The oceans are warming, maybe a little bit, but we know that the oceans take hundreds of years to respond to changes of the temperature on the surface. The oceans are 70% of our planet, and we've only explored 2% of them. So any change in temperature to the ocean, we can't explain, we can only guess. 2% of it we know about. That's a hell of a lot of sea floor with volcanoes that we've never discovered. That's a hell of a lot of heat, that's a hell of a lot of CO2 and a hell of a lot of other chemicals being pumped into our atmosphere, gases and planet and system. And wildlife that we've never, ever taken into our calculations. So how can our calculations be anywhere near accurate when 70% of the planet we've only explored 2% of? I'm not making this up, they are.
What I'd like to do today is to start with Dr. James Hansen.
In the summer of 1988, I testified to Congress.
Number one, the Earth is warmer in 1988 than at any time in the history of instrumental measurements.
There's a reason they always say recorded history. That means since 1880, which is a very narrow perspective on history. If you look back through the other recorded history, the one they don't talk about, you'll see Earth's been considerably warmer for most of it. So, jog on. You're lying.
I said I was 99% confident that this was a real physical effect of the increasing carbon dioxide.
The Earth is warming by an amount which is too large to be a chance fluctuation.
Too large to be an actual fluctuation. Well, as of April 2019, is a rise of 0.44 degrees. That's nothing. That's not even out of natural variation at all. So, I think you're full of crap. And on another note, didn't you guys say snow would be a problem? And this is the snow record for last winter. Look at that red dot. Way over all the records of recent time. If we was on a warming planet, at warming times, we wouldn't be having record snowfalls. And they're not even small records being beaten here. These records are going to be beaten again next year because we're getting colder, not warmer.
The main driver of climate change is greenhouse gas emissions. Forests are one of our ways out. They are like the lungs of the planet. They are big climate regulators at a global scale.
July 23rd, 19...
That's right, guys. Trees. The thermostat to Earth. Plant some trees, cool it down. Take some trees away, shit gets hot. Do you think it's that simple? Let's have a look back historically. Look at the temperature here. I'm going to put a little arrow, point it out. Most recent temperature records from the ice core data. Quite stagnant. Not like the past. Hasn't gone up and down. But it's not even stagnant at a low point, so it's quite a high point. You know, we were warm anyway. It's not getting warmer. If anything, there's a lot of scope for it to get colder. This nice thick grey line here shows you that most of history, temperature is colder than now. That's right, colder. Not global warming, that's why they changed it to climate change. It's going to get colder. Right, I'm going to place a line through here as well. This line through here, this is just going to highlight the fact that if you look at the peak of the temperature where the line starts, put a little arrow there for you, down to the peak of the CO2. The CO2 peaks just after the line, not before. Temperature drives CO2. Look all the way through the chart, you'll see the same thing. Peak in temperature, followed by a peak in CO2. Go back again, peak in temperature, followed by a peak in CO2. Nowhere on the chart there's a CO2 peak before the temperature. CO2 does not drive temperature.
We know that if we continue releasing carbon dioxide into our atmosphere, temperatures will keep rising and the consequences will get progressively worse. But do we know how much worse?
David, that's just wrong. We know, do we? We know. Very precise words, very impacting words. But we don't know it at all. You're lying. We don't know anything that you're claiming that we know, because there's no evidence or proof, only theory. What we do know is that the sun controls our climate. What we do know is that solar cycles have a huge impact on our harvesting, our crops, on our weather, and our winters and our summers. What we do know is cosmic ray influx can cause cloud formations and volcanoes to go off. What we don't know is anything you just said. It's fabricated. It's there to control us.
You are never too small to make a difference. And if a few children can get headlines all over the world just by not going to school, then imagine what we could all do together if we really wanted to. We still have time to turn everything around, to pull the emergency brake and to take action. But that short period of time isn't going to last for long.
That's the thing, David, you've got to use children now. It's wrong, so wrong. Teen suicides are escalating at the moment, and so we go younger down and pick on even younger children to try and push an agenda. They already know their jobs are going to be hard to find because of technology. But now you're telling them their planet's going to be unhospitable because of their parents, and that we've done nothing about it, and it's on them now to fix it. And because they're children, they do believe that a planet is as simple as CO2 goes up, temperature goes up, CO2 go down, temperature go down, and they think that we can stop that. It's just so wrong on so many levels. You know, what happens when these kids see the calling in the next 12 years and realise they've been lied to and motivated to follow someone else's lie? A whole disenchanted generation. Thank you. Thank you very much.
There's a message for all of us in the voices of these young people. It is, after all, their generation who will inherit this dangerous legacy. We now stand at a unique point in our planet's history, one where we must all share responsibility both for our present well-being and for the future of life on Earth. Every one of us has the power to make changes and make them now. Our wonderful natural world and the lives of our children and grandchildren and all those who follow them depend upon us doing so.
So if you haven't figured out that by the end of this video, he's just going to spell out the guilt trip for you. You're killing the planet, your kids are going to die, their kids are going to die, and their future generations will die because we like CO2. There it is in a nutshell, guys. If it wasn't all lies, it'd be scary. But it is lies, so rest assured, you're not killing your children. I don't get it. I don't get why we've got to be pushed into this warming fiasco, why we need to have taxes put on it. And I don't get why this documentary needs to be aired in England. The mankind contribution to global CO2 levels is 2%. That's all of mankind producing 2% of the global CO2 level. Because the world produces it, naturally. 98% of it, actually. Right, so the world is 2%, back on point. The world, 2%. This aired in England. Our population, 71 million people. How much of that 2% do you think we're responsible for, compared to China, India and America? Africa, Russia. Are we even 1% of the 2%? So if we stopped all of our CO2 production, you know, because the BBC guilted us into thinking we're killing our kids, we stopped it. Carbon neutral England now from now. What difference does it make? Nada. So why is this being aired on TV? Why are you all being made to feel guilty? Ask yourself them questions. Check out my page on Facebook. And please, start the debate with your neighbours. Because the more of us that are talking about this, the more they have to start trying to be honest, and they have to start looking at the facts and being honest about the facts. Thank you very much for watching.